With the release of Elite Dangerous Odyssey coming for PCs on the 19th of May and the alpha very nearly complete, I thought it time to give some thoughts on what I feel about Odyssey so far. The alpha began at the end of March and there's been quite a bit to look at. Now, before I get into this, keep in mind 2 related points. Firstly, Frontier have stated that not everything in Odyssey has to offer was included in the alpha. That is fairly self-explanatory and includes things such as new planetary tech, plasma weapons, the new Odyssey engineers, and of course the ability to visit all our favourite locations such as Thargoid bases, nebula, and far-off places. That said, I've seen comments on my videos from some people who have interpreted Frontier's words to mean that alpha only contained a small slice of what Odyssey has to offer, and therefore this group of people are expecting a huge content update with far more game loops beyond what we have seen so far. Just so it's very clear, that's not what Frontier have said, so if you are expecting that, then I'd suggest not to let your expectations get too high. With that out of the way, let's move on to my thoughts of the Odyssey Alpha experience so far. The first thing that hit me with Odyssey will likely be the same thing that hits other people: the immense sense of scale that the game offers. Regardless of what ship you fly in Elite, it's pure awesomeness to see them from the first time whilst on foot. Even the lowly Sidewinder has a sense of size to it that isn't at all obvious when flying. The larger ships, however, really do look truly massive. Standing beneath the Type 9 is quite the experience. Elite then continues to have very few rivals when it comes to conveying a sense of scale, and this is even more apparent with the new planetary tech, which I'll talk about further into the video. Now, that's not to say there aren't a few problems with the scaling here and there, with some very odd ship design decisions. However, these, by and large, are easily fixable should Frontier decide to fix them. In short then, whether I'm standing beneath my ship, looking out of a window of a station bar, walking around a new settlement, or just flying over the fantastic new planets, the sense of scale in Elite is amazing, and a truly fantastic achievement of which Frontier should be proud. Without a doubt, the ability to walk around the Elite Galaxy adds an entirely new dimension to almost every aspect of the game, instantly making it a far larger experience.
Good to have you with us, Commander.
With on-foot activity comes combat. Guns, of course, are a natural addition once you have feet and hands. And really, at this point in gaming history, the first-person shooter is ubiquitous, and also as old as the hills. Some older people will talk about the original Doom or Quake, others will talk about Halo, Warframe, Modern Doom, Overwatch, or indeed any number of fantastic shooters. The point is, there's a wide range of titles to choose from, all of which offer exceptional examples of what a shooter can and should be. It was obvious then, right from day one, that Frontier would be faced with a challenge when making a compelling shooter. Well, did they succeed? Well, kinda. Frontier have managed to tick all the right boxes with the combat aspect of Odyssey. The character movement is good, guns work as they should. The combat is fairly well paced, the animation is functional but doesn't offer any extras. NPC AI is up to the task, and the settlements which serve as arenas do the job. And really, that's the thing. It all does the job, and nothing really beyond that. If Odyssey was released as a standalone shooter today, there would be nothing to make it stand out from the crowd. Dozens of other shooters have done what Odyssey is doing, and they have all done it much better. Odyssey first-person combat then isn't standing on the shoulders of giants, instead it is very firmly standing in the shadows of other giants and what they have already created. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not a bad thing. Odyssey combat isn't bad. It doesn't really do anything wrong. It knows what it wants to achieve, and it achieves it, but the problem is, it doesn't go beyond that. In a world of exceptional shooters then, Odyssey is average at best, and functional at worst. So, what could Frontier do to put Odyssey to the next level? Well, let's take a look at conflict zones. Players get dropped into planetary settlements to conduct a fight. Two sides duke it out until one side wins. It's a capture-based game mode which ends with success once all the enemy is defeated. And that's that. There are no other modes, no other options. In a universe of spaceships and ground vehicles, these do not factor into the conflict. Sure, the Vulture is there, it drops players into battle. but ships are not a designated part of the combat. While sure, daring players can take a bombing run and drop mines, it's not really a supported part of the experience. Players aren't standing on the towers of settlements painting ships to be taken down with missiles. SRVs are not driving through settlements in the manner of tanks laying waste to the area before running over a mine. There are no player capturable turrets that can take down enemy ships. Bottom line, conflict zones do not support the sphere of combat or combined arms. Sure, outside of conflict zones, players can organise such an event, but even that comes with problems, and such organised events are certainly not dynamic or emergent gameplay. This means conflict zones are a simple affair of players shooting NPCs or other players all on foot. Ships might pass over from time to time, but they are a distant thing given little thought. In terms of combat itself, enemies can be a little bit too bullet spongy for my tastes, but this is an obvious design decision to push players towards engineering their weapons. Battles, meanwhile, can easily descend into rocket jumping, a game mechanic designed 25 years ago with Quake. To combat this, I'm certain that Frontier will nerf the rocket launcher at some point. In the end then, I can honestly say that I've genuinely enjoyed both the combat and the conflict zones in Odyssey, but I can equally honestly say that I haven't experienced any standout moments with it that I haven't seen done far better elsewhere. Now, there's two sides to this. I can look at it as a missed opportunity for Frontier to have added something truly great, or I could view the on-foot combat as just one small addition to an already vast game. To be honest, at this moment, I'm not really sure, before release that is, which of those two views it should be. But then again, maybe it really is a bit of both. Moving on to missions, everything I've said about combat still stands. Combat can be a large part of Odyssey's on-foot missions, so naturally it shares the same problems as conflict zones. Outside of that though, the missions in Odyssey are genuinely fun, although some of them have more than their fair share of glitches. I've enjoyed the theft missions or powering up a settlement. Despite my reservations about stealth that I talked about before, I do nonetheless enjoy sneaking about bases and stealing ID at a distance and then bypassing security. Panel cutting is great when it works. Interacting with base computers is also fun, again, when they work. Assassination missions are interesting. In general, the missions offer some good fun. Often, they are the right length, being neither too short nor too long, and this is a good balance if you haven't had to travel too far to get to them. My main concern here is the variety of missions. Whilst Frontier have suggested that release will contain a greater variety of missions than Alpha, as well as a greater variety of settlements, incidentally, even still, how many hours will a player get before the missions feel excessively repetitive? 10 hours? 20 hours maybe? That's not a lot for an online live service game. But for now, I'm still enjoying these, so only time will tell. Now for me, there's two sides to exploration. There's a side which I've always enjoyed. That's travelling the galaxy from star system to star system, checking out nebula and distant stars, flying through Lagrange clouds, looking for unusual mountains or craters. This is all gameplay that Elite offers, not because Frontier have designed good exploration gameplay, honestly they haven't, but rather because they have designed an amazing galaxy. Simply by virtue of having an amazing galaxy, it means there are things to see and therefore explore, and it works very well and will only get better with the new planet tech. But then there's the other side to exploration in Odyssey, looking for plants and scanning them. Unfortunately, as it stands right now, this is easily the most underdeveloped feature of the update. Like many others back during the dev diary period, I kept asking when Frontier would show exploration gameplay. Well, now we know why they didn't show it. It is virtually non-existent. When exploration arrived with Phase 3 of Alpha, players were very quick to react to the minigame that came with scanning plants. Fortunately, Frontier were quick to respond to say they will remove it. It wasn't well liked, as you will no doubt remember. As it stands right now, it appears as though plant scanning will become a point-and-click affair, but until release, we won't know for sure. Regardless, my main concern here isn't so much how we are scanning, but what we are scanning. And for that, it's a limited number of plants. Frontier have stated Odyssey will quadruple the amount of plant life that was already found in Horizons, which, bottom line, wasn't much to start with, and certainly not when you consider 400 billion star systems. many of which players are going to be exploring on foot. So as a headline feature, which has a dedicated tool and a dedicated suit, exploration is extremely limited. Perhaps the best new feature for exploration is the ship's heat map, which can reveal areas on a planet that are likely to contain life. But with the limited amount of life existing there, there's essentially nothing to do with that life aside from scan and go. It's a feature that is of limited use. In terms of exploration gameplay then, flying around the galaxy is about to get better thanks to the planetary tech. However, plant scanning has missed the target by a light year. Before I get onto the subject of planets, I want to very quickly talk about Odyssey's graphics upgrades. These are pretty significant, and from the improved visuals on ships with the new included PBR services, to the interior drums of stations, from the amazing planets to the fantastic new lighting, it all looks very, very good indeed and is an amazing upgrade. Station interiors, that's the parts we can walk around, have some nice visuals to them. Seeing NPCs walk around or just sitting there is a great touch. Unfortunately, getting up close to the NPCs would reveal that they're not up to modern gaming standards. Overall, the graphics have improved really nicely. The only real issue here is performance. Now, I've been frequently getting 25 frames per second in a variety of on-foot locations. Sure, I'm running at 4K, however, Odyssey's graphics are nowhere near demanding enough for them to be a problem on an RTX 3080 paired with a Ryzen 7 5800X. Now, I'm not going to focus on performance in this video because Frontier have assured us that it will be vastly improved in release, but I will be waiting to see how this turns out and if it turns out to be true. There will no doubt be some performance improvements, but based upon what we have seen so far, some isn't anywhere near enough. They actually need to be significant. So let's see how it goes. I, like many others, will be watching this side of things very closely. Now, I've saved for last what for me is the best part of Odyssey, the amazing new planet tech. Frontier have stated that what we have seen so far in Alpha is the prototype version of the new tech, but even still it looks very good indeed. Sure, there are some problems with SRVs and characters floating above the surfaces. There's also numerous texture problems, but by and large the planets in Odyssey Alpha have been amazing. From up in orbit they look beautiful, regardless of whether they have an atmosphere or not, and closer to the surface they look truly amazing. It's true to say that planetary tech in the gaming industry has come a long way since Horizons and the first lot of planetary landings in Elite. After all, our citizens' planets do look stunning, and although Microsoft Flight Simulator isn't a space game and only has a single planet, it is easily the best in any game. Elite, though, is unique. Not only does it have a full galaxy, but it is populated with 1-to-1 scaled planets. So while some other games' planets might look better than Odyssey, none are trying to do anything remotely close to what Odyssey is aiming for. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the final release versions of planets look like. From the teaser shots we have seen so far, it looks as though they have a lot to offer, and it's an aspect of Odyssey I just can't wait to see. So that's where we are then. This isn't a final opinion on Odyssey, of course, and to be honest, I doubt I will ever give a final opinion, but hopefully I've gone into enough detail to sum up my overall thoughts. Some of these thoughts will no doubt change with the release, which will hopefully have a number of improvements. Overall though, so far Odyssey has some great aspects to it. The update itself is definitely going to enrich the game as a whole, but right now it feels like a freshly laid new foundation with just a functional house built upon it that, well, isn't even fully built yet, rather than how it should feel, a fully fledged and complete $40 expansion. And unfortunately, a few too many aspects feel average rather than great. If Frontier are planning to continue to working on Odyssey after release with additional content, updates and improvements, if they plan to continue balancing the entire update and build upon this foundation, then Odyssey might go from average to great. However, so far Frontier haven't breathed a single word about their plans for Odyssey beyond release. Do let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments section below. I'd love to hear what you've liked about Alpha so far and what you hope to see improved for release. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.